e6, d4, d5, knight c3, bishop b4, e5, c5, a3, bishop a5. A dubious alternative is bishop into c3 check. Okay, let us go back. What is played is b4, c into d4. On c into b4, knight b5. Knight b5 yields a potent attack. Let us go back and see what is actually played. Last move played is c into d4. Queen g4. Knight e7. On king f8, let us go back and see. On king f8, b into a5, d into c3, a4, followed by bishop a3 check is very strong. Let us go back. After queen g4, knight e7 is played. b into a5, d into c3, queen into g7, rook g8, queen h7, knight b c5. On knight d7, let us go back and see. Knight d7, knight f3, queen c7, bishop b5, a6, bishop into d7 check, bishop into d7. White castles. This is a dubious move. Knight into d4, queen into e5, queen d3. Queen d3 is better for white. Let us go back and see. The last move played is knight b c6. Let us go back. This was the last move played. Knight f3, developing the knight. Alternative is a4 bolsters the center, shuts the black bishop and weakens the dark squares. Let us go back. What is played is knight f3, queen c7. On queen into a5, let us go back and see. On queen into a5, knight g5, rook f8, f4, followed by advancing the h pawn. Advancing the h pawn ties black. So let us go back and see what is the last move played. Queen c7, bishop b5. Bishop b5 is a very good move, played by 16 years old Bobby Fischer. Alternatives are bishop b5, harmoniously pursuing development, white without a time. Also playable are, let us see, instead of bishop b5, bishop f4, bishop d7, bishop e2, 000, queen d3, queen into a5, castles on king side, g4, bishop g3. This was played between Hunziker and Dexton in Zurich 1959. Let us go back. What is the move played by Bobby Fischer is bishop b5. After bishop b5, bishop d7 is played, but not, let us go back and see, not rook into g2, king f1, rook g8, rook g1, rook g1 is a excellent move, rook into g1 check, king into g1, and black's king remains hemmed in the center, while white merely marches his h pawn to victory. Let us go back and see. The last move played is bishop d7. Fischer castles, bishop, not bishop into c6, bishop into c6, white castles, d4, knight g5, queen into e5, queen into f7 check, king d7 with advantage to white. Let us go back, and the last move played is Fischer castles. This is the first match played after TAL became the world champion. TAL castles on the queen side. After TAL castles on the queen side, bishop knight 5 is played by Bobby Fischer. Fischer simply underestimated the force of TAL's reply. Correct is, let us go back and see. Correct is bishop into knight. But what is played is bishop g5. Let us go back. Knight into e5 is played. Knight into e5. Originally Fischer intended, let us go back and see, bishop into d7 check, rook into d7, knight into e5. If bishop into e7, let us go back and see that also. Bishop into e7, knight into f3 check, king h1, queen into h2. Let us go back. After knight into e5, this combination also we will continue. Knight into e5, queen into e5, bishop into e7, rook h8. That's an excellent move. Rook a, e1, rook into h7, rook into e5, rook into e7. And the compact center pawns are more powerful than Fischer's queenside pawns. Let us go back and see what is played is into e5, bishop into b5, knight into f7. White could still have kept some tension with bishop into knight. We will see that. Bishop into knight, queen into e7, or instead of queen into bishop, queen into e5, rook f e1, or after queen into e7, rook f e1. But the last move played is knight into f7, bishop into f1. On rook df8, rook f b1, bishop c6, knight d6 check, queen into d6, queen into e7, etc. Let us go back and see. The last move played is bishop into f1, knight into d8, rook into g5, knight into e6, rook into g2, check, king h1, the saving move, not king into f1. Let us go back and see. Not king into f1, rook into h2, queen f7, or knight into c7, rook into h7. Let us go back and see. After queen f7, rook h1 check. So let us go back, and the last move played is king h1. After king h1, queen e5 is played. Instead, on queen c4, let us go back and see. Queen c4, queen into e7, rook g8, knight f4, queen into f4, queen e6, check, king c7, queen into g8. So let us go back and see. Last move played is queen e5. Let us go back and see. After queen e5, rook into f1 is played. Queen into e6. On rook g6, let us go back and see. On rook g6, queen into e7, rook into e6, queen f8 check, rook e8, queen f3, queen f3 is white's favor, king into g2, queen g4 check. Fischer accepts a draw because black has perpetual check. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your time. Please subscribe so that you can see all the great games of the great Bobby Fischer. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your time.